Well, hello everyone. It is I, your humble narrator, Nate, who is going to take you today through the world of A Clockwork Orange. And recently I've been having a lot of fun with these videos I've done. I did a video on Carrie not too long ago. I also did a video on The Shining. And what I've been doing is I've been revisiting a lot of classic works of literature or reading them for the first time that have had film adaptations based on them. And I think that it's a lot of fun because it's always interesting to me to see what interpretation a filmmaker has done of an author's written work. And so I have seen Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange like probably 20 times in my life. It's a phenomenal film that, in my opinion, stands the test of time as far as the subject matter that it's trying to convey and just how hard-hitting of a film that it is. And I love it quite a bit. And I'd never read the Anthony Burgess novel ever in my life. And so this year I decided to read it for the first time and kind of wanted to discuss the parallels and the differences between the two, see kind of the direction that Stanley Kubrick took it on his own. So without further ado, let's get into it. A Clockwork Orange, the film, is directed by Stanley Kubrick. In a near-future Britain, young Alexander Delarge and his pals get their kicks beating and assaulting anyone they please. When not destroying the lives of others, Alex swoons to the music of Beethoven. The state, eager to crack down on juvenile crime, gives an incarcerated Alex the option to undergo an invasive procedure that'll rob him of all personal agency. In a time conscious is a commodity, can Alex change his tune? So as I said, I am a huge fan of the Stanley Kubrick film. I have been since I was really young. I think I watched this movie the first time when I was 14 or 15 years old. And I remember like enjoying the performances and being really, surprised and shocked at how intense the subject matter was conveyed in the film. But I was a pretty young kid, so all the nuances of the movie didn't necessarily stick with me. And so over the years, being someone who loves movies, it's one that I've revisited time and time again because, like I said, I feel like the subject matter that the film is trying to convey still really holds true today in a way that's so really poignant, and I'll discuss throughout the review. But like I said, I'd never read the Anthony Burgess novel, and I was really excited to check that out and read that this year. And what I will say, Kubrick's adaptation of the Burgess novel, and I've talked about Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining and how he changed a lot from the book, this one is pretty damn close. There's very little that has changed from the novel to the movie, with the exception of the ending, which I'll discuss a little bit here when we get into it a little bit more. And I will say this outright, which is really strange because I said it in the Carrie review, and maybe this is just an insane set of circumstances, but I like Stanley Kubrick's movie way more than the book. I don't think the book works half as well as the movie, which is funny because the source material is relatively similar. The problem that I have with the book, the monologues that Alex has throughout the book, there's just something about the way he dwells on certain ideas that Alex has and the way that he talks about them that it feels very repetitive. Comparatively to the movie, I feel like I'm always gripped from start to finish, and that every single line of dialogue that is conveyed, it's really resonant and it sticks with me. And in the book, I found myself kind of dozing in and out, where I was like, okay, I get the point. You're just saying the same things over and over and over again. And it was funny when I was reading that because the book at the beginning had kind of an introduction by Anthony Burgess, who expressed his own disdain for the novel and how he really didn't like what he wrote, and that the only reason that it has stood the test of time is because of Kubrick's film. And I thought that was really interesting because, like I said, the subject matter in it is pretty close. I think one of the things that that Burgess does a good job in with the novel is it's conveyed really early on how young Alex is. I think they say he's like 14 or 15, and he's going out and he's murdering people and he's sexually assaulting people and he's doing all of this really terrible, horrible stuff at that young of an age. And I think in the film, you know that Alex is young. You know that he's of school age, but you don't really know his exact age. It's never explicitly stated in the film. And so that kind of made the emotional impact a little bit more at the beginning of the film. But like I said, once it starts to get a little repetitive in the middle of the novel, I started falling out of it a little bit, where I think what really makes Kubrick's film work so well is Malcolm McDowell's incredible performance as Alex. I feel like he is so well written, and I feel like that he just commands the screen, not only through his amazing dialogue, but with his facial expressions and his bodily performance. He is just an amazing actor, continues to be an amazing actor all these years later, but this performance is really, just as a young actor, an amazing performance to give, because Alex is a horrible human being. He's not likable. He commits absolutely atrocious, terrible acts to people solely out of boredom. He's just doing it to do it. But what I love about A Clockwork Orange, and one of the things that I feel like is so poignant in the way that not only Burgess conveys it in his novel, but also Kubrick does in the film, is that everyone else is evil. The government is evil. His parents are horrible people. The society that he lives in is awful. The prison system is terrible. Every single person that is condemning him for his obviously horrible actions aren't any better than him, and they're trying to convert him and turn him into this thing that is supposed to make him better. They're stripping him away from his violent tendencies. They don't want him to, assault women anymore. They want to make him stop. But in order to do this, they're brainwashing him into being their version of an idyllic citizen, which what I think is funny is none of those people are either. They're all really terrible. I always love at the end of the film and of the book just kind of seeing how corrupt the government is, and how they're like, we've ruined this kid who committed murder, and now we've got to save face, so we'll try to partner up with him to make things look like they weren't as bad as they actually are. And I think that's so indicative of multiple governments in our society now, is that they will do anything to save face. They will do anything to not make themselves look bad. And I think that's so poignant today, watching that last scene, revisiting the film not too long ago, where that political official comes in to talk to Alex in the hospital at the end of the movie, and it just like bleeds seedy politician in a way that's so brilliant. And I feel like it's crazy how much that it stands the test of time. And like I said, you look at Alex and he's doing and committing all these horrible atrocities. His parents really aren't in the picture. He doesn't really have any sort of leadership figures. And it's almost to me like the most purest animalistic form of a being that can exist. Someone who does not let the societal structure be attached to them whatsoever. They just act out on pure instinct, which was interesting to me to think about the ideal of societal norms and morals as a whole, and kind of like looking at Alex's character as a person who has none of those. And he's great at faking it, though. When he's in public, he does a really great job of looking like a very well-dressed and proper child who is living his life the way that he's supposed to. But as soon as he goes behind closed doors and starts doing whatever he wants, he becomes this pure monster. And I thought that was so interesting to think about how he knows how to manipulate the system, but he gets to a point where he lets that animalistic instinct overwhelm him to a point where he gets caught, and he kind of goes over the line. Even like, I think it's interesting to see his droogs, his group of friends that he spends time with, sort of falling by the wayside, not really wanting to do what he does anymore. And when they challenge him, he immediately fights back. And I think that that's such an interesting idea that Kubrick conveys in the film and that Burgess discusses in the novel, is just like this idea of like, where does evil come from? Is evil embedded in a human being? And like the evil in the people that surround us, and like guising certain things as good. And then like, even the husband, who his wife was the one who was assaulted by the group, who she dies, you can kind of see the pain and the hurt in him about her life being taken, but he's also just kind of like, oh, she did everything for me, and now I don't have that anymore. And like, is he any better than any of them? It's less of like he misses her as his significant other, and more of just like, oh, she did everything for me because I can't do it on my own. And it's like the power dynamics of men in that type of a circumstance. And it's so interesting to unpack each and every small character in the film, and just like how they manipulate people and how they use their position of power to get what they want. And like I said, I feel like I could do like an hour-long analysis on the film and the book, but I do want to quickly talk about the variations in the ending, because in the book, and Burgess talked about this at the beginning of the novel, is that I guess when he took it to his publishers and they released it in America, the last chapter of the book, the publisher said, we don't want to release this in America. It's too quote-unquote English. They're not going to like it. So we're going to cut that out and release it without that chapter in America. And he was kind of hesitant about it, but he let him do it. And the reason why, the end of the book in America is the ending of the film. It's him in the hospital bed saying, I'm cured, everything is better now. But we know as an audience that he's not. He's the exact same person that he was before, and he's going to go on manipulating and using people the way that he always has, which isn't that indicative of our society as a whole. Nothing really ever gets better. It just consistently stays the same. And I think that that's such a poignant thing, and it hits really hard. Well, in Burgess's novel, if you read the original version, at the end, he's kind of trying to reform himself. Alex is trying to be a better person at the end of that novel. You can tell that he, wants to kind of start over again. He wants to do something different in his life. And that works on a very different level, but I think that it kind of takes away from what this material is trying to say as a whole on, like, the evils of society in general. If you make it so that the lead character ends up being a good person at the end, well, aren't they just kind of falling into the traps of what the novel is discussing? Does real good even exist? Which is an interesting thought in and of itself. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I personally prefer the ending of Kubrick's film. I think that dour note that it leaves itself on obviously is very reflective of what the society that we live in. And I don't know. It's always interesting to think about. And I really love the movie. I thought the book was all right. I feel like it's a little overblown. I feel like it, even for a short page count, I felt like there were so many moments you could trim out, where even at the 2 hour and 15-minute runtime of Kubrick's movie, it feels so perfectly paced. And yeah, I love the film. I think the book is definitely worth checking out, though. And I'm glad I finally got to read the book so that I can kind of parallel the source material to the film adaptation. What are your thoughts on A Clockwork Orange? Do you love the book? Do you love the movie? Do you hate the book? Do you hate the movie? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective on it as well. And as always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.